Hi guys, if you're just coming in, I wanted to go live a little bit earlier today. I hope you guys are all having a good day today. If you're studying for the LSAT, let me know in the chat. And if you're just joining for the first time, hi. As you can see from my little banner, I'm a third-year law student. I took the LSAT when I had logic games on it. I took it in 2020, and I scored 170. I took the LSAT once. Hi, Zach. Are you studying for the LSAT or thinking about it? I was able to get a full tuition scholarship to top 20 school, and now, crazy, I only have one semester left of law school, which is just wild to me. And I really love teaching the LSAT, but I just don't have much time for it. And I already have my job. I'll be working in New York City after graduation in big law, so I definitely won't have time to tutor, but I still really like doing LSAT stuff. So I'm playing around with doing YouTube and TikTok. So definitely check out my profile if you haven't already, because I have a lot of really good tips on there. The deal, you're taking the LSAT in June. Good luck, and it's really awesome that you're like just scrolling around on TikTok and finding LSAT stuff already, because I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on the practicing for the LSAT, but you also need to do a lot of learning. Zach, you're taking it April. Really good luck. All of my students who are in undergrad and studying for the LSAT at the same time definitely usually need a bit more time. So it's good that you're thinking about LSAT stuff now. And if you're, let me know what resources you're thinking about. I used PowerScore when I studied. I really like the PowerScore books. The reason I like them is because they teach you the logic concepts in really simple examples at first, and then you work your way up to full LSAT questions. And every tutor has their own opinion, but to me, that's the best way to practice the LSAT, is to learn the logic concepts first. And the way to do that is really to learn the flaws. So if you start with flaw questions and learn the flaws first, then you'll know what is a strong argument, what a logical argument looks like. Then when you get to full LSAT questions, then you're just dealing with trying to decipher like the language they're using, because the LSAT is written like confusing sentences, confusing paragraphs, and that's what makes it super frustrating. But if you're trying to learn the logic and get through the really long, complicated questions, it's going to be really painful and miserable. So that's my suggestion. That's why I like PowerScore. They have these workbooks for PowerScore that I don't think are that useful, but the big books, the logical reasoning Bibles, are good. Oh, hi, Janina. Oh, I'm so glad Janina came in. Please like and share if this is helpful for you guys, and make sure you send me a heart me gift, because I set up a Discord for my fan club, so you guys can ask me questions on there and talk to each other. Janina, she's been helping me out with promo, so when I saw her, I was like, oh, I have to remind people to do the TikTok things. So please like and share. Oh, Janina, you just finished your LSAT writing. Oh my gosh. Everyone put in 100s for Janina. Getting that LSAT writing done is awesome, and doing it before your LSAT is really impressive. I waited way too long to do my LSAT writing. I think I waited till like a couple weeks after. So good for you for getting that out of your way. Oh yeah, thank you, Janina. Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you felt about it, because some students, it wasn't that scary, right? I think it's exactly like what they describe, but you can tell me what you think, Janina. A lot of students have come in and asked me about the LSAT writing, but I literally spend like half a session on the writing with my students, like the day, like our last session before the test. It's really not anything to worry about. It's just like a box to check off, at least for right now. If that'll change, I don't know. But right now, it's just a box to check off. And thank you guys for the coins and the likes. And let me know if you have any general law school or LSAT strategy questions. I have this example up here because I had it up last night too, but I think it's a good example because I was working with actually a student last night on the same thing. Um, when you see cause and effect, oh, thank you for the gifts, guys, and thank you for the likes. Oh, awesome. We achieved my like goal. I'm supposed to celebrate. I don't know how, but thank you. Thank you, Janina. Um, when I was going over questions with my students last night on a section, we noticed that all of the weekend questions had the same pattern, and they were all cause and effect questions. So when you see cause and effect on the LSAT, you want to think about, oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. Thanks so much for all the likes. Amazing. And the coins. Thank you, Janina. Amazing. Girl, this is 27 cents. That's the most I've made on a live so far. So thank you. That's so when you see cause and effect on the LSAT, you want to remember that the thing that makes the logic work is the relationship between the cause and effect. If you want to weaken a cause and effect relationship, you just need to introduce a different cause. If you want to strengthen a cause and effect relationship, you want to remove the possibility of another cause. And then if you want to describe it, then you want to find the answer choice that explains that it's not considering another cause. And I like thinking of questions this way instead of like by separate question type, because I think it can help you recognize the patterns. Because I think like this weekend answer choice that I came up with, it might seem random, and I can like hear students in my head when they see that weekend. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the likes, Janina. You're the best hype girl. I can hear my students saying this weekend answer choice is like completely random. It brings in new information. The stimulus isn't even talking about traffic enforcement and driver education. How does that weaken? But if you remember that when you want to weaken something, all you literally have to do is introduce another possible cause. So for this question, the argument is that bike lanes cause fewer accidents. If I wanted to weaken it and to say that those cities also invested in traffic enforcement and driver education, that introduces some doubt. That introduces a new cause. Maybe it wasn't just the bike lanes that caused the fewer accidents, because traffic enforcement and driver education may also help make the roads safer. Thank you guys so much for the likes. Scrolling through, making sure I didn't miss anybody. The strengthen answer choice, it says there were no other changes made to traffic patterns or road safety. And this is another one. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Janina. For the strengthen answer choice, I can hear my students in my head being like, how does that, just like literally being like, how does that strengthen it? Saying there were no other changes made. But this is such a common LSAT strengthen answer choice. If you can rule out other explanations, you are strengthening your argument. So by saying there were no other changes to traffic patterns or road safety made, it doesn't prove that the bike lanes caused fewer accidents, but it makes it more possible because it takes away an argument, someone could say. Someone could argue, well, what if there were other changes? But this answer choice says there were no other changes. So that eliminates an argument against it, which strengthens it. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for the likes. And Janina, definitely let me know if you get a message or something about the Discord. I still have to DM you, but I'm working on making sure the Discord works. But I set it up right, so it should work. Um, and once you recognize that it's not the it's just under hi NYC Bougie, it's just under LSAT machine. You might be able to find it on the Discord server. Do you need to invite? So, if you join my fan club, you need to send me a heart me. If you send me a heart me, you'll join my fan club, and TikTok will send an invite link. So yeah, if you send me a heart me, you'll join my fan club, and TikTok should send you an invite link. Um, and if that doesn't happen, DM me, and then go on my next live and figure it out. I'm 33. I'm an old folk. I downloaded TikTok just to do LSAT, so I'm still learning. So thank you guys. Once you realize that, and this goes for really any question, any weekend answer choice, all you're really doing is trying to introduce another possible reason. So, like, for example, I was working on a question with a student yesterday, and it was about physical therapist. And it said, like, the conclusion was there's no need to choose between, like, a general therapist and a specialist because people recovered in the same amount of time, no matter whether they had a specialist or a generalist. So they were saying it doesn't matter. The correct answer choice to weaken that was an answer choice that said different types of injuries are treated by general therapists than by specialist therapists. Oh, NYC Bougie, do you remember this question? That's awesome. And I remember going over this with my students. Yes, exactly, NYC Bougie. That's so funny you remember this one. That's how you know it's a hard one. This was a level 4 one, so that totally makes sense. I remember sorry for that noise. I was going over this with my student, and she was talking about, like, I don't understand how that connects to the stimulus, because the whole entire stimulus was about that the patients recovered in the same amount of time. And what she eventually realized was that the correct answer choice that said different injuries go to different types of providers means there's another reason why it matters who you choose. So the stimulus was saying because patients recovered in the same amount of time, it didn't matter. But the correct answer choice introduced another reason why it would matter. Maybe you have a certain type of injury that can be treated by one person. Oh my gosh, NYC Bougie, we see each other. I love you're going off in the comments. I love it. So is it the specialist is better or the generalist? But my tutor pointed out who would end up at a specialist, the people referred to by the generalist. That's a very good point. That's actually a really good point. I like that. Right, if you go to a knee doctor, it's because you have a knee problem. Exactly, NYC Bougie. You might like recover in the same amount of time as someone with, like, I don't know, a broken arm, but you may or may not you're probably not going to the same doctor. Actually, don't know that. That one, you may go to the same doctor. I don't know. You can see why I'm a lawyer, not a doctor. Oh, you're taking the January LSAT. Are you taking it for the first time, NYC, or an additional time? The first time, yeah, the first time is the hardest. You're gonna do great. Hey, I think that's great. I love when students NYC. Well, you know what? Even if the most important part is just getting the first one down. All of my students feel better the second time they take it. Really, the first time is like about nerves. And everyone who has come through here who's on like their second time or third time has said that they feel better after it. And um I love that you pushed it off in November, because I think it's so smart to take your time and not force yourself to take it before you're ready. Because that's where you'll see a lot of like disappointment and frustration. Um, so I think that's really smart to like be honest with yourself about where you are. Because that's something that's really hard with the LSAT that they don't talk about. Is like you have to admit when you don't know something. You have to admit when you made a mistake, and like you have to constantly do it, because that's the only way to improve. So it feels really frustrating because you feel like you're constantly looking at your mistakes, um, but that's the only way to improve. And it's good training for law school. I know, I know people say that you don't use LSAT skills in law school. I disagree. My dean disagrees. She actually I was talking to her a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me that the LSAT is like one of the strongest indicators of how you'll do on the bar. Now, don't let that freak you out. That doesn't mean whether you pass the bar. That just means like how you do on the bar. Um, but I think like me being an LSAT, well, I know for sure me being an LSAT tutor, and like taking my time studying for the LSAT definitely has helped me in my classes. And at the firm I'm working at, like when I say I'm an LSAT tutor, like the partners, they look at me like, are you crazy? And then I start getting a lot more work. I'm not saying that because it's like I'm a genius or anything. I'm just trying to say that the frustration of like learning the LSAT is worth it. Um, but for some people, it's not. Like I had a friend who gave up like 2 weeks after. She's super smart. She has like a graduate degree from Ivy League. She could go to law school, but she was like, "This is annoying as f. Like I hate this studying." And I was like then you probably shouldn't do it. Um, but this is good training for law school, because in law school you're going to have to constantly admit that you're making mistakes, and if you don't admit it, people are going to point it out to you all the time because you're just constantly learning. Um, so I think it's a very good um, practice for prep for law school. And if you're here listening to like me, just some rando ramble about the LSAT, then you're already going to do just fine, because I think like the one of the hardest parts about the LSAT is simply just learning. I mean, is um, the finding the right explanations. When you have a tutor, like when I have my students, I can explain something to them, and if they look back at me and they're like, that doesn't make sense, I already have four other explanations I can give them. Um, if you don't have a tutor, and I didn't have when I was studying, you have to go out and find those four or five explanations until you find one that makes sense to you. So if you if you find like my TikTok and it makes sense, like go find that. If you're using a resource and it's making you feel stupid or dumb or frustrated, it's not the right resource for you. Like you don't want to stick with something that you're just not getting. It just means you need something different. Um, yeah, Yanni, it's that's so awesome. I mean, I'm sorry that you went through that, but it's really good. Even though it's frustrating, it's really great that you still like stuck with the process. Um, yeah, and it makes sense to be frustrated, but law school law school admissions, they will accept they allow for a lot of explanation. So like I have a student, she's taken it 4 times. This is her 5th time taking it. I've This is my first time seeing her as a student. Um for some reason she never studied before she took them. She got the same exact score and then like didn't study, but now she decided to study, which is fine. But everyone has their own LSAT journey, and I'm confident she's gonna end up just fine. Ariana, everyone hates this test. So know that it's super super hard. Like I have 1 semester of law school left. I'm I was much more worried about the LSAT than I am worried about the bar. I'm not worried about the bar. I'm worried. I was much more worried about the LSAT. And if you tell any lawyer that you're studying for the LSAT, they're gonna look at you with like, Juana. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you guys. Everyone's over at Juana. It's so bad. But if you tell any lawyer I'm studying for the LSAT, they will give you like the biggest puppy dog eyes and just feel so bad for you and tell you like, oh, like I remember doing that. It was awful. So if it sucks for everybody. Like just know that. But if you tell any lawyer, they're instantly gonna get like flashbacks and be like, I hate that. And it's the same thing like once you get into your first year of law school, if you tell a lawyer in your first year of law school, they're going to really like look at you with sympathetic eyes and be like, oh God, I remember doing that. Oh, and please like and share if this is helpful, you guys, and make sure you send a heart me gift so you can join the Discord, because I set up a Discord where you guys can ask me LSAT questions and can talk to each other, and I'll probably like pop in. So make sure you send a heart me so you can get the invite link for the Discord, because I think TikTok sends it out automatically. Um, Hi Juana, I'm I am when are you taking the test? Oh, you're taking the last one in spring. Um, I'm setting up a schedule, Lana. So make sure you just follow, set it up for notifications. I just set up this account like a month ago, and I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do lives, but I really want to do, and you guys can tell me what you think about this. I really want to do lives where I'm like going over a test section. So like everyone knows exactly which test from Law Hub. So you guys can have it pulled up because I can't show the questions, but like we could stay on for like an hour and a half and work through the questions. It's harder to do when I have like an open live because I get distracted by chat and stuff. But if I do like fan lives, then like it's closed. So yeah, make sure you send a heart me gift just so you get. Sorry if you hear the trash truck in the background. But make sure you send a heart me gift so you get the invite link to the Discord. Okay, Juana, that sounds awesome. Yes, and I will start getting a better, more regular schedule. Um, yeah, once school starts, I don't even know. I need to look back at my classes. I'm not even sure which classes I'm taking. When you get, the good news is when you get to your 3L year, your third year, we call it 3LOL. So like by the time you're in your third year, you feel done with law school, and like I just said, I don't even know what classes I'm taking. Like I don't even remember. That's like where I am right now. I was not like that the first year, so it gets better. I promise. Um, Toby, is it a barrier to entry or a real predictor of success in school? Toby, I probably have like, I don't know. I probably have a controversial opinion, but I 100% think the LSAT should stay. I 100% think it's a, I don't want to say a predictor of success, but an indicator of success, um, or at least an indicator of how hard law school is going to be for you. Because the LSAT is a lot of figuring out how you learn, and law school, to do well in law school, it's a lot of figuring out how you learn. Um, and I think now, with like all the resources and the internet and everything, now I think there's like enough free resources that everyone can learn the LSAT. Of course, it's helpful to have a tutor, but I don't think it's necessary to have a tutor. I still think you can learn it, like even without paying a dime on a course, by finding like free resources online. So I think, and I also noticed like this happened to me last semester. I took evidence last semester, and evidence is like a hard class because it has a lot of rules. Um, I was I was trying to study with my friends, but I basically ended up teaching them because there was a lot of there's like conditional logic in evidence. And a lot of my friends hated studying for the LSAT, and like put like minimal effort into it, and um like basically tried to block it out. But I think just because I'm an LSAT tutor and I've like have been doing it so much, it made it really easy for me to like explain it to them. I was like, oh, this is probably why I'm like getting this a lot faster. Um, I also think that, um, well, not I think they've done studies where they've showed that studying for the LSAT literally changes your brain structure, like in a good way, but it like creates new pathways for your neurons and the way that they travel. So, like when you study for the LSAT, you're literally like changing your brain structure, and that brain structure is what you're going to need for your career. So, like 100%, I think that studying for the LSAT and how hard it is, it pays off because it also just makes you smarter in life. Like this LSAT logic is not just law logic, it's logic in the entire universe. This logic can be applied to everywhere. Everything you learn in the logical reasoning section, you want to bring over to reading comprehension. And you want to bring into your life outside. Like I still get texts from my students when they see like LSAT things out in the wild. Um, so it's like 100% worth it, even if it's frustrating, to go and find explanations that make sense to you because I mean, it just makes you smarter. Like, um, the more effort you put into it. Um, and I think it's a lot like law school. Like, you might take a prep course for LSAT, but you still find yourself like going other places or looking for other explanations. The same thing in law school. Like, we're literally given like databases full of additional books because our textbooks, they know our textbooks aren't going to have the explanations that everyone needs in them. So a lot of law school and LSAT is just like finding what makes sense to you. Um, Yanni, I feel like the LSAT is more rewiring the thinking and bars more application. Oh, you're reading my mind, Yanni. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Yeah, because I think you're exactly right that like the LSAT is. I know people say that you don't use LSAT skills in law school, but I do. I really do. And even when I was at my law firm, this summer, like that's why I got the partners to like me because I when I said I was an LSAT tutor, they were like, "Are you like what? Like why would you do that to yourself?" And like I'm not saying that because I'm a genius. This is just something I chose because I needed to make money. But I'm just saying that because I think it 100% is like plays a role in like your success. And I think it probably depends like the school you go to too. Um, Hi, the deal. Sorry it took me a second to get to you. And guys, if this is helpful, please like and share and let me know if you have any questions about the example I have on the screen. And make sure you send a heart me so you can get an invite link to the Discord. I think TikTok will send it out automatically. So if you send a heart me, you'll get the invite to Discord links. I'm gonna start doing section reviews so that way you can do like super fan and come to my test reviews. Because when I do lives like this, I just keep getting distracted by the chat because it's so fun to talk to you guys. But I want to do like test reviews too. So, um, the deal. How did you prep for being cold called? Um, you just pray. That's literally it. Like you make sure you do your reading. You pay attention to the types of questions that the professor asks. Um, and then you pray. And just know that no one remembers anything anyone says. Like I couldn't tell you I my best friend who's like in most of my classes and she was in all my classes 1L. I literally cannot remember one answer that she gave. I'm like trying really hard. I can barely remember answers I've given. Um, so cold calling gets you get more comfortable with it. It just is nerve wracking. But the best way to deal with cold calling is one, make sure you read. It's gonna suck if you don't read. And if you don't read, make sure you at least read like summaries or something. And then two, paying attention to the types of questions the professor asks. Because some professors, they will ask you like, what was the date? What were the names? What were the details? Some professors, they'll say all the easy stuff and then ask you the hard questions. So you just have to pay attention. But it also depends. Like my constitutional law professor, he's so funny. He's very awkward. And he literally was like, can I just not cold call you guys? Because it's more awkward for me than it is for you. And I would just rather not. So you might get a professor like that where you just don't get cold called. Um, Hi, Kimberly. I'm taking the LSAT this Saturday. Good luck. Do you suggest just drilling LR? And how much did you focus on reading comprehension? So for for preparing for Saturday, I definitely think drilling LR is a good idea. If you look at my profile, I think this is my most recent post. It's like it says like LSAT countdown prep. Um, Something I do with my students because practicing questions over and over can get really stressful. So something I do with my students is we go through every question type and then I just make them like write down everything they can think of for that question type. So for example, like if you were doing for like parallel reasoning questions, you would want to jot down like what do they look like, what has to match. In weaken questions, you would want to write down like what are ways to weaken certain scenarios, what do incorrect answer choices look like. So another way to review is reviewing like from your memory what you remember about the question types. So that can help too. But yes, I definitely recommend drilling LR, but I also really do recommend going through the question types and making sure you feel like you're comfortable with them. Um, how much did I focus on reading comprehension? I didn't focus on it. I really didn't focus on it that much, and I don't focus on it a ton with my students. I mean, I do and I don't. We do logical reasoning first, and then we treat reading comprehension like a longer logical reasoning section. Um, so like when people ask me for resources for reading comp, I do need to come up with one. I mean, I think Power Score is okay, but I really don't use a resource for reading comp because I treat it a lot like logical reasoning. So for like each paragraph, I basically have my students think of as like a stimulus because you want to be looking for conclusion words in reading comprehension, and you want to look at like premise indicators, if thens, all of those things still come up in reading comprehension. But my biggest suggestion and what I find most students waste the most time with is with reading comprehension is spending a lot of time on details that don't even come up in the questions. So spending most of your time on the beginning and ends of the passages in paragraphs and less time in the middle, and then coming back to the middle when there's a question is much more efficient than spending a lot of time trying to like understand details that don't come up. So that's the biggest like time waster that I see my students do is spending too much time trying to understand the passage. You still want to understand it, but you don't need to like memorize every single detail. Is the LSAT a reading exam and much more? Toby, the LSAT it is it is like a reading exam, but what it's testing is how you recognize patterns, and they show those patterns in arguments. So the test will give you like a bunch of statements and then ask you to questions about what's logical to come from these statements. And there's just a bunch of logic rules that you have to memorize. Yeah, I hope that was helpful, Kimberly. Um, and definitely let me know if you have any other questions. Um, you said this is your second time and you're taking LSAT. Oh no, you had 3 LR? Cry. That's so hard. Hopefully I'll cross my fingers for you this time. That's a lot. That's a lot. Um, when was the first time you took it, Kimberly? And you're welcome, Toby. And yes, make sure you like the live. And if you want to join the Discord, send a heart me to get the invite link. Um, oh, you took the first one in November. Good. That's a good amount of time to take of in between. Oh, of 2024. I actually really like when people take breaks in 2025. I also like when people don't take breaks. I love what everybody does. um, but I think that's awesome. Are you doing undergrad right now, or are you out of law school? I mean, out of undergrad? Because my students who study and for LSAT when they're in undergrad, I feel so bad for them. It's so hard to study and do classes at the same time. Oh, congratulations. Ashley, yeah, I'm struggling there. TD, if you send a heart me gift, you will get TikTok should send you an invite to the Discord. I set it up so it's linked to the fan club. Oh my god, Kimberly, you do so much. You work as a legal assistant, work, school, and studying. That is really, really tough. So props for you. Um, I'm so impressed with people who do like straight through. I took 7 years off of undergrad between undergrad and law school. I cannot imagine going straight through. I'm always even like like so many of my friends are so much younger than me, but I'm still just like, how did you do this? Um, Girl, you do so much. I love it. No, I love people who do too much when they can handle it, and it sounds like you got it on lock. Um, yeah, good luck, Kimberly. You're gonna do awesome. Ashley, you take it on Saturday too. Everyone put your 4-leaf clovers in for the January test takers. I know that as it's coming closer, it gets more and more nerve wracking. Um, Ashley is way more confident than previous times. That is such a great, great sign. And it's so crazy too, because when my students say that, I'm always like, did you ever think you would say you would like feel even a little bit confident? And they always end up being like surprised, like, no. But I think it's awesome. Um, yeah, and I really like the first one or two times you take the LSAT, it's really, I think, just about like nerves. Like I only took it once, but I was 7 years out of law school. I mean, out of undergrad. I used to be a teacher, and then I was doing ACT and SAT tutoring. So like my brain was already in test prep like mode. Um, but um, if I didn't, I for sure like would have probably crashed out the first time I took the test. Hi, Perfect. Oh, it's so good to see you. I hope you've been able to catch my replays on YouTube. And I'm glad that you popped in because if you guys want to see me do question reviews, I've, I've been uploading my lives to YouTube, and there's a lot of good question reviews over there. I'm going to start doing more question reviews. And Perfect, make sure you send a heart me gift so you get connected to the Discord. Because I think TikTok should send you a link. And I'm going to start doing more question reviews. I'm just trying to figure it out because I like talking to you guys on my live, so I have to have separate lives for the question reviews. So just make sure you have your notifications on so you get notified when I schedule. Um, and then I promise, I know I keep Pearl Fix like, girl, you've been saying this for the past month. I promise I would get a schedule set. Um, oh, you love them. Good, Perfect. It really helps to know that my stuff is helpful. So I'm really happy to hear that like people are watching them and they're helpful. Um, Toby, do the state schools generally require higher LSAT scores? No. State schools generally require like lower LSAT scores. Of course, it depends on the state school. Um, University of Michigan, that one is going to take higher test scores. So it's really mostly based on the rank of the school, on what test score they'll take. Um, yeah, but they'll always take your highest one. So it's okay to take like 3 times. You can take it 7 times. I don't know if I know anyone. I think the most is this student I have now who's taking it her 5th time. But this is my first time working with her. But like most students will take it like 2 or 3. I have some that take it 4 times, and they'll look at your highest score. Um, And they expect to see, like, that's very normal to see like a lower score and then like some improvement going up. Um, oh, Kimberly, okay, I love that you love being busy. And working in a law firm, yeah, that really does give you like an edge over you, other people starting law school, just because like even the people who are like paralegals or had any type of legal experience, they knew so much more than like me or a lot of the other one else. Because law school really assumes you have like zero experience with the law. So you're already starting with a leg up, which is really good. Kimberly, what? I was told that they only take your most recent. No, so you decide what scores to send them. So you can update them with like your newest LSAT score if you want. Um, they see all of your scores. They see all of your scores, but like the one that you send them is like you can choose which one that is. Um, some people do cancel their first score, and that's okay. I mean, it it's it's very normal to cancel your first score just because you're nervous. Like, don't worry about that. Um, but yeah, it's it doesn't have any impact on like how it's interpreted at all. Um, Whether they see improvement or they see you like if they see that you took a test date and then they see your score or they see the score, if they see the scores, then I'm trying to say that your history doesn't matter as much. That's all I'm trying to say. Um, but let me double check myself, Kimberly, and make sure that I am not misspeaking and they didn't change anything. Um, okay, I'm looking up. Um, do, 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 do. Okay. Um, okay, Kimberly, maybe I take that back. So it says your score will be released to schools to which you have applied at the same time and it's released to you, unless you do score preview. So they do. I see. So they do see all of your scores. So all of your scores do go to them, Kimberly. So but then obviously not the one that you canceled. Um, I'm looking about what it looks like when you cancel. But okay. So I hope if I confused anyone, I'm super sorry. But they will get all of your scores. I mean, I knew they would get all of your scores, but I guess I didn't consider if your recent score wasn't your highest score. I think that was not something I was thinking about. Um, I'm testing Saturday. I'm gonna send you a message. Yes, perfect. Definitely send me a message. And if any of you guys do have any LSAT questions, feel free to message me. Um, I don't know. I just have a lot of fun explaining LSAT things. So, um, like I can explain stuff over a message too. Um, but definitely like this. And again, if you're just joining, make sure you send a heart me so you get an invite link to the Discord So then you can ask questions and you can know. I'll probably like announce there first when I'm gonna go live, and I'll announce if I'm gonna do um like a section review live where you guys will have to have like your computers up. But feel free to ask me any other LSAT or law school questions in the chat. Perfect, totally normal to be nervous. You're gonna do just great though. I cannot remember Perfect. Is this the first time you're taking it? Hi Kimberly, how much do law schools take FAFSA into consideration? Um, it's different for every law school because they have their own like algorithms. What you get, well, I guess tell me a little bit more what you mean, Kimberly. Do you mean like into consideration for being accepted, or do you mean like in consideration for like giving out scholarships? Because if you're talking about acceptance, it has nothing to do with acceptance. And shouldn't. Yeah, okay, good. For giving out scholarships, yeah. Most scholarships most scholarships are going to be generally merit based. So FAFSA won't won't be factored into that. So, for example, like my full tuition scholarship, um, I didn't like I didn't apply to get it. I didn't like I never like it wasn't even on my radar to ask for it. I just got it. And like I got accepted to like Georgetown and Northwestern, and they all in Ohio State and I don't know, applied to a bunch of schools, and they all gave me merit based scholarship offers. There may be some that do need based, where you have to apply. I think they would tell you if FAFSA is considered, but I do not think that FAFSA is going to be considered. It can't be a consideration in the merit-based scholarships. It would only possibly be consideration in need-based scholarships, and those would be like ones that you would have to apply for. So FAFSA shouldn't be like impacting your scholarships at all. Like I know people who um have taken out like have gotten student aid and have not gotten student aid and have gotten like outside scholarships. Like one of my friends, like she has a scholarship where they load her book money onto like her school account automatically. I know that's not what you asked, sorry, but I hope that answers that. Most of the scholarships are going to be merit based. But now you have me double Googling everything, so let me double check. But like when I applied to NYU, which I got waitlisted at NYU, I had to like actually fill out like write an essay for yeah, so for need based, okay, I think that makes sense. Yeah, so for need based, your FAFSA is likely to be taken into consideration. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I hope that answered Kimberly. So yeah, the merit-based ones, the ones that are just on like based on your like your stats, or you write an essay for, those will not have FAFSA considered. The need-based ones, and they'll say if they're need-based, those ones they will. It sounds like at least just from what I just googled, they will look into. They will consider that. Let me know if that helped. and totally normal to feel nervous. Perfect. I can't remember. You'll have to remind me if this is your first time taking it or not. Oh, thank you for the rose TD and for the heart me. Yeah, so you guys should be getting the. Let me pull up my Discord and see if anyone has gotten joined to Discord. But if you want access to the Discord, make sure you send a heart me link, a heart me gift, and TikTok will send an invitation out to you. Then you can ask me questions on the You can ask me LSAT questions on the Discord. You guys can talk to each other, and I'll post when I'm doing like test section lives, so you guys can have like a test pulled up and go through questions with me. Just because I keep getting distracted, just because I really like talking to you guys. So when I go live like this, I'm answering questions a lot and not super focused on test questions. But let me know if you guys have any LSAT questions too, or law school questions. And I was saying this earlier, but I put this example on the screen because I was going through this with a student last night, and we were talking about what to do when you see cause and effect in the stimulus. And so recognizing patterns or types of arguments is super helpful. So for example, if you can recognize something's cause and effect, then there's a couple things that you should know. If you want to weaken cause and effect, you want to introduce another cause. So for my stimulus here, it says that cities with more bike lanes have fewer accidents. So bike lanes must cause fewer accidents. If I wanted to weaken that, I need to introduce the idea of maybe there was another cause that caused fewer accidents. Maybe it wasn't just the bike lanes. And that's what this weakened answer choice does. It says the city's also invested heavily in traffic enforcement and driver education. And I can hear, and if you were here earlier, you heard me say this, but I can like hear my students in my head being like, that is so random. The stimulus doesn't even talk about traffic enforcement and driver education. What does that have to do with anything? How does that impact the conclusion? And all of that is completely valid. But it makes sense if you remember that the argument is arguing a cause and effect relationship. If you can introduce doubt by saying, maybe it's these two other things, then you've weakened it. It doesn't mean you have to disprove it or make it even like unbelievable. You just need to make someone go, huh. And so if someone's telling you that bike lanes cause fewer accidents, and then you learn that the city also invested in safer traffic patterns and driver education, you're going to start to wonder, is it really the bike lanes that cause the fewer accidents, or could it possibly be these other elements? And that's why weekend questions, I think, can be so difficult, because they will introduce outside information and it might feel completely random, but what you're looking for is anything that could just be another explanation. That's all that you're doing with weakening. So whether it's another cause, whether it's another reason, whether it's another hypothesis, anything that's not the conclusion will weaken it. So again, for weaken, you're trying to introduce another cause or reason. To strengthen questions and strengthen cause and effect, you want to protect the conclusion. And that means you want to rule out other explanations. And so that's why this answer choice, and this is super, super common answer choice on the LSAT for cause and effect strengthening, saying there were no other changes made to traffic patterns or road safety in these cities. That doesn't sound that helpful to most students. And I can hear my students now being like, how does that even connect? What does that even mean? But it does something so simple that it's just, it doesn't feel like it's testing you on something, but it is. What that strengthen does is it rules out other explanations or some other explanations. So if someone wanted to say, well, what if they made changes to the traffic patterns of road safety, but then you learn that they didn't? Well, maybe it was the bike lanes that caused the fewer accidents because you just ruled out two other things that could have done it. And so whether it's cause and effect, or whether it's like an explanation of something or a hypothesis, with weekend questions, you want to focus on, does this introduce another another reason or explanation? That's all you're looking for. And then I wrote here in flaw just the ways that they describe this type of this question in the answer choices, calling it a causal relationship. If you haven't seen the word causal, like my students always read it first time as casual. That's like the way I read it. But it just means a cause and effect relationship. That word causal comes up when it says it assumes that because two phenomena occur together, one caused the other. When they say two phenomena, they just mean like two events or two trends. So here the two phenomena are having bike lanes and fewer accidents. And they're saying that one caused the other. And then the last one says it fails to rule out alternative explanations. And that's a very common way to describe a cause and effect flaw on the LSAT, is by saying the author did not consider other explanations. And that really goes for every argument. With every argument, if you're weakening it, you're not thinking about, is this new information or is this new information? You're thinking about, does this answer choice introduce a different explanation than the author gave? For strength in questions, you want to see, does this answer choice rule out other possible explanations? For flaws, you're looking for the answer choice that says the author wasn't considering other explanations. And sometimes that answer choice is really, really specific on flaw questions, and sometimes it literally might say like they just failed to rule out alternative explanations. The other thing about this type of question, I focus a lot about like the cause and effect, but it's also important to recognize the correlation and causation piece. That correlation does not equal causation, meaning just because two things seem to affect each other, or two things happen at the same time, it does not mean that they are cause and effect. And that's what, when you weaken and strengthen, that's what you're preying on. You're introducing an alternative explanation that's not the cause. And let me know if this was helpful. Do I have another? I think I took a screenshot. I went over sufficient and necessary with one of my students yesterday too. Let me see if I can put the screenshot up here. Did I not take a screenshot? is my screenshot with my necessary, and there it is. The first one I looked at. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me make this bigger. Well, you guys can let me know if that's blurry or not. But this was something that I did with a student really quick in Zoom while we were working together last night. Because she told me we wanted to review necessary and sufficient indicators again, or conditions again. And so the first one is from a question we were working on, and the stimulus had said that for a city to have like an economic boom, there's got to be a lot of technological innovation. And if this is helpful, guys, please like and please share. And also make sure you send heart me so you get a link to the Discord so you can ask me questions. You guys can talk to each other. And then you'll know when I'm going live too, because I'll try to announce in there when I'm going live. And feel free to ask your LSAT and law school questions in the chat. So the stimulus we were reading said that economic booms cannot happen without technological innovation. So in other words, what it was saying was that technological innovation is required for an economic boom to happen. The thing that's required is the necessary condition. So if you are summarizing a stimulus and you summarize it as technological innovation is required for an economic boom, then technological innovation is your necessary condition. It's the thing that is required. It's necessary. That's why it's called the necessary condition. It's required. The same idea, and if you look on the right-hand side, I have a more familiar example. Bachelor's degree is required for a PhD. Again, the thing that's required is the necessary condition. And here, in the second example, the necessary condition is having a bachelor's degree. That's necessary to get a PhD. The important thing to know is the necessary condition, and this is what the LSAT tests you on. The necessary condition means basically nothing by itself. So, for example, if I tell you the necessary condition of having a bachelor's degree, that doesn't tell you anything else. Because it doesn't mean I have to have a PhD. I could have a PhD, but the necessary condition of having a bachelor's degree is just a requirement. But if I tell you the sufficient condition, which is I have a PhD, you know I also have a bachelor's degree. So the sufficient condition, which is just the other part of the sentence, the sufficient condition tells you the whole story. So if I tell you I have a PhD, you already know that I have a bachelor's degree. I didn't have to say it. You know it because it's a requirement. If we take that same logic to the economic boom, if I tell you there was an economic boom, you know there's technological innovation. I didn't have to say it, but you know it because it's required for an economic boom, the same way a bachelor's degree is required for a PhD. But if I tell you the necessary condition, hey, this city has a lot of technological innovation, it does not mean an economic boom is going to happen for sure. It could, but it doesn't mean that. The same way, me telling you the necessary condition of having a bachelor's degree does not mean I have a PhD. It could, but it doesn't have to. If that explanation was helpful for necessary and sufficient conditions, please send me some likes and make sure you send heart me's gifts so you can get access to the Discord. I am, if you're just joining, I'm a third-year law student. I love tutoring the LSAT. I just have less time for it now, and I'll be working at a firm in New York City next year. I already have my job, which is really exciting. But I definitely won't have time for tutoring then. So I am trying out doing like lives and classes on TikTok. And if you have any requests, like question types you might want to see covered or topics you want to see me talk about, please feel free to leave those in the chats or DM me or in the comments. But if you're studying for the LSAT, you definitely want to make sure you send a heart me so you get the Discord access, because I want to start doing section reviews for super fans. If you go to my YouTube, which is the same name, LSAT Machine, I have uploaded a bunch of my section reviews. And some people were in here earlier saying they were helpful. So I definitely suggest you going to my YouTube and please subscribe. I only have 14 subscribers, but looking at my question reviews, because I was doing more question reviews earlier, and I may start doing some more, but sometimes it's easier to do just concepts and answer your questions in chat. And also, the LSAT questions are copyrighted, so you would need to have the free Law Hub account, which, like I said, is free, so anyone can get it. A free Law Hub account to follow along with the test when I do sections. So let me know if you think that would be helpful, or you might follow along to do that. But definitely let me know if you're taking the LSAT soon, or if you have any law school questions. I worked in the admissions office of my law school between my first and second summer. My first and second year of law school. So, I definitely have some insights about that, and I've helped my students with like their personal statements and things, and they've had really good results with their cycles. Hi, Bella. It's good to see you. So yesterday earlier today, I had the causation and correlation example up. This one I wanted to put up because I did this in the middle of a session yesterday with a student for necessary and sufficient conditions. And we were working on a question that said technological innovation is required for an economic boom. Yay, Bella. Let me pull back up this. I don't know if you saw, I can't remember if you were here last night, Bella. Let me know if you saw this last night. But I'll talk a little bit about this because I think hopefully it'll help with weaken and strengthen. Okay, perfect. Then I low-key made this because of you, Bella, so I'm really happy you're here. Because when you asked me about weaken and strengthen, and I said I'd get back to you, so I'm glad you're here. So with weaken and strengthen questions, they can feel really random. And you might wonder, like, can you have new information in it, or does it matter how strong it is? And I think those were the type of questions you were asking last time, Bella. And I was thinking about it, and I think what helps with weaken questions is just to realize that you are simply trying to, for weaken, introduce another explanation or cause. In strengthen questions, you're trying to rule out other explanations or causes. And you can rule them out by either making your explanation stronger or ruling out other choices. So I I think thinking and with my students when they start thinking about um, weaken and strengthen questions, in that way I think it gets easier. Are there any rules that apply to the answer choices? Weaken and strengthen questions I think are tough because they almost they feel random. So let me pull out my notes. I don't have rules off the top of my head for weaken strengthen, but I'm gonna go over this example. But I'm pulling out my weaken strengthen notes just to see if there's anything I can read off. Where are you? Okay. Yeah, so for weaken arguments, Bella, um they, the answer choices that are usually not correct are ones that might actually strengthen, not weaken, and then ones that are irrelevant. So, from my notes, I'm not seeing any quick and easy tips for weaken questions. Stronger language is typically better. Yes, that is absolutely right. I was doing a question yesterday where one of the answer choices said, like, it said almost all in the answer choice. And yeah, that was strong enough to like help weaken. So, um, oh, you're welcome, Bella. Thank you so much for telling me it helps. It really helps me to know like if I'm actually helping because I don't know, I don't look at other LSAT stuff, so I don't know what other people are doing. But I know how frustrating it is to have questions and just want answers. So this example that I have here, Bella, the stimulus says that cities, so almost all, yes. So almost all is okay. That is strong enough. Yes, almost all is okay and strong enough because you're not trying to 100% like disprove anything. You're just trying to make it weaker. Now, if it said all, that would be better. But yeah, even saying almost all um, weakens because that means the majority, most. Um, yeah. And I actually, if you look, Bella, I have a post on my TikTok that talks about almost all meaning most. So that might be a good one to look at too. In the stimulus that I have here, so I said like cities with bike lanes have fewer traffic accidents, and the conclusion was that the bike lanes must cause a decrease in traffic accidents. And so when you're weakening, what you're looking for is you're looking for another cause. So essentially, all you're doing is trying to say, is there anything that else that could cause this? And this answer choice that I wrote, those cities have also invested in traffic enforcement and driver education. I can like hear my students saying this answer choice is so random. Traffic enforcement and driver education wasn't even talked about in the stimulus. How can that be correct? And the reason weekend questions feel random is because you might be thinking about it like um as in like using words from the conclusion. But what you really want to think about with weekend questions is that you're trying to introduce another explanation or cause. So for this weekend question, if you knew that these cities also invested in traffic enforcement and driver education, it would make you wonder, okay, so is it just the bike lanes that caused a decrease in traffic accidents? Or could it have been these other two things? It, you don't have to say, like, that's strong enough. Just saying that they also invested in these things. That's enough to weaken. It only weakens it a little bit. It just makes you wonder. They don't say those, like, changes were successful even. So it's not like this is really strong evidence to weaken, but it does weaken because it introduces doubt. It's another explanation. The conclusion here is saying the bike lanes caused the decrease. The weaken answer choice suggests, what if it was traffic enforcement and driver education? That's a different cause, so that weakens it. If we go to the strengthen answer choice, the strengthen answer choice says there were no other changes made to traffic patterns or road safety in these cities. I can hear my students in my head with this one too, being like, how does, like, that sounds super neutral, or like that doesn't even sound like it's helpful. The stimulus didn't talk about traffic patterns or road safety. How is that our correct answer choice? But if you think about it as you're trying to rule out other explanations, and this is one of the trickiest strengthen answer choices, I think, ruling out other explanations strengthens the conclusion. Because introducing other explanations weakens the conclusion. And if this is helpful, guys, please make sure you like and make sure you send a heart me gift so you can get, so TikTok will send you an invitation to the Discord. If we say there are no other changes made, then that automatically takes away two possibilities. So it makes it not a ton more likely, but a little more likely that the bike lanes caused the decrease in traffic accidents. So when you're thinking about weaken and strengthen, what you're asking yourself is, does this answer choice give me a different explanation than the conclusion? For strengthen, you're looking at, does this answer choice protect my conclusion from arguments? And it doesn't have to protect it completely, but the strengthen one does, because a common way if you look at flaws, you'll see how the LSAT attacks arguments. A common way the LSAT will weaken an argument is by introducing an alternative explanation. So if your strengthen answer choice removes the possibility of alternative explanations, then that strengthens it. So I think this is a really good example of like maybe like a tough weaken and strengthen scenario where you might be looking for information that comes from the stimulus and you feel frustrated because you don't see it. But remember, you're just thinking about, all you're doing is thinking about, is this answer choice providing a different explanation? That's all that weaken means. Weaken doesn't mean disprove, it doesn't mean whatever else. It just means, are you making it possible that there's another explanation? I was talking, who was in here? Yeah, who was in here earlier? I think it was maybe NYC Bougie, maybe. But we were talking about a weaken strengthen question that was about physical therapy. And it was a really tough, because I just went over this one with my student. And it was a tough one because the stimulus had said, it compared people who went to two different types of doctors. And it said that those people recovered in the same amount of time. So it must not matter what kind of doctor you go to, because you're going to recover in the same amount of time. The question asked us to weaken that. So if we think about what that conclusion said, it said, it does not matter that does not matter which doctor you choose, because whichever doctor you choose will not have an impact on how long it takes to recover. The question asks us to weaken. The correct answer choice was an answer choice that said, basically, like the doctor you choose depends on the type of injury you have. And that might seem like it does not go with the conclusion. The conclusion is it doesn't matter who you choose because you recover in the same amount of time. The correct answer choice said different types of injuries need different types of doctors. What that answer choice did, it introduced another reason why it might matter who you choose. Because the conclusion of this stimulus that I'm talking about, was that it does not matter which doctor you choose. Full stop. The correct answer choice said you need different doctors depending on different injuries. Well then, yeah, that does make a difference, and that does mean it matters which type of doctor you choose. So that answer choice weakened that conclusion. Even though the stimulus was not about types of injuries, the entire stimulus was saying these two groups of people were covered in the same amount of time, even though they had different kinds of doctors, so type of doctor must not matter. The correct answer choice that weakened that said different injuries require different doctors. Then it does become important who you choose. Time is not the only consideration. It is introducing another reason why it might matter the doctor that you choose. So when you think about weaken and strengthen questions, oh, hi, Alori. Thank you for the like and the follow. Let me know if you're studying for the LSAT. When you're thinking about weaken and strengthen, it's really as simple as weaken. If it's cause and effect, you're trying to introduce another cause. It's just as simple as that. So in this question, Bella, I'm trying to stay on a little bit longer. I'm glad you noticed. I'm probably not gonna, well, maybe like 15 more minutes. We'll see. If more people come in, I'll stay longer. But maybe like 15 more minutes, and then I might hop back on later. The stimulus says these cities had bike lanes, and then accidents went down, so the bike lanes must have caused fewer accidents, or like caused a decrease in accidents. The weaken answer choice here simply introduces another cause. So, or another explanation. Both. It says they also invested in, hi Shauna, the weaken answer choice says, hey, but they also invested in traffic enforcement and driver education. That is the correct weaken answer choice because it simply introduces another explanation for the fewer accidents. So even though the stimulus didn't talk about traffic enforcement or driver education, it's okay, because what this does is it suggests or raises doubt that the bike lanes are the cause. It brings in two other possible causes. And it might not sound that convincing, and that's okay, because it's just a weaken question. It's not a disprove question. It's just a weaken question. That just means just by even 0.1% weaken. Would it be stronger if it said those and those also decreased accidents? Yes. But this is still enough to make you wonder, oh, that's another logical explanation. And the strengthen question, I think this is the hardest type of answer choice to recognize. The strengthen answer choice, correct answer choice, protects the conclusion from other explanations. So by saying there are no other changes made, you're ruling out the possibility that someone could say, what about these other changes? So if you see an answer choice that, this is super common on the LSAT for strengthen questions, for there to be an answer choice that says in some way, there were no other changes made. And it says it and might say in like a really confusing way, or it might be a really straightforward way, which is sometimes F's with you more. But if you see an answer choice that's ruling out other possible causes or explanations, like 9 times out of 10, that is the correct answer choice. It's one of the LSAT's favorite moves. And I'm talking about it because I was just doing a section with my student last night, and we saw this come up 4 times on the section. So it's definitely something worth paying attention to. That another very common way to strengthen is ruling out other arguments. And make sure you guys please like this if this is helpful, and share. And make sure you send a heart me so you get access to the Discord, so that I can, because then you'll see when I go live, and I'm gonna do section reviews for super fans where I like don't get distracted by chat, but we can go, like I can go through a full LSAT question, multiple of them. So I think you probably want access to that too. So make sure you send a heart me, and TikTok will send you an invite to the to the Discord. Hi Bella, can you please come back later today? My test is in 2 days. Okay? I'm happy that I'm helpful, and I hope I'm making you like feel a little bit better, because I know that's so nerve-wracking coming up to test day. Hi Political Princess. And make sure, I don't know if you are, Bella, but make sure you're checking my YouTube too. I have to upload last night's live. But I've been uploading most of my lives over there after they're done. Hi Juliana, are you taking the LSAT soon? You can see from my banner, but I'm a 3rd-year law student. Crazy, I only have 1 semester of law school left, which is just wild to me. But I really like tutoring the LSAT. I have fun with it, and I have fun explaining it and answering questions. But I just don't have that much time for it. So I'm trying out TikTok and YouTube. I'm taking it on Friday. Well, really good luck. Everyone put in your 4-leaf clovers for Bella and Political Princess, and anyone else taking the January test. You guys are going to do great. I know it's super stressful. But if you're like listening to someone random like me talk about the LSAT, you're already, like, I can tell you're already like focused and dedicated. So I'm not even worried. Is it your first time taking it, Political Princess or Juliana? A lot of my students, I only took it once, but I think that was just, I was a little bit different, but I only took it once, but my students who take it 2 or 3 times, they always say the 2nd and 3rd times are better. So if this one feels really nerve-wracking, just know that like if you do take it again, 100% normal. I really haven't met many other people who are like me who've only taken it once. I don't think I've actually met anyone. I'm not saying that in like a bragging way. I don't know that what I did was smart. It's just what I did. But most of my students say the 2nd time feels better. So I really like asking people when they come in chat to see if they think that's true too. No, I took it in October online, switched to paper. Yeah, Juliana, the switch to paper really does something for some students. I have a lot of students who take it on paper and do a lot better. So that's really good that you noticed that and you switched. And that's actually a really good sign, because part of like doing well on the LSAT is learning how you think, and part of that is taking multiple tests. Bella, it's an accommodation. So you can go, if you go to the accommodations page, you can, I'm not entirely sure exactly what it's accommodation for. I feel like most of my students, because I don't usually handle my students' accommodations. I wonder what, maybe ADHD? I don't know. Let me look. Actually, I haven't thought about that. Okay, so I guess ADHD, migraines, and visual issues are some of the accommodations or some of the reasons you can use paper. Um, I submitted for accommodations using a doctor's note. I wear blue light glasses. Showed history of trouble with screen. Oh, Juliana, okay, come through. Love that. Really happy I know that. Thank you for sharing that. And I bet everyone else in the chat is really helpful too. Um, so the blue light glasses getting blue light glasses recommended showed a history of trouble with screen glare, and then you could switch to paper. That's super smart. Good for you. Um, yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, anyone who has extra time, let Bella know in the chat what you think of it. Um, my students, I have some students who they regret doing the extra time, um, just because of how long it is, and I have one student who like has it spread over 2 days, um, and I think he regretted that. Um, but that being said, if you need the extra time, if the extra time is gonna help you and you need it, it's worth it to like just prepare for it. Um, yeah. I didn't do accommodations. Um, but I mean, I took the LSAT. I think it was right during COVID. It might have been the first or second online administration they did. Um, and it was only I don't think we had an experimental section. I can't quite remember. Um, but that's really good to know. I did not know that the blue light recommendations was part of that. That's smart. Um, okay, guys, thank you so much for joining and all the likes. I'm gonna hop off. So if you haven't sent me a heart, if you haven't sent a heart me yet or joined the fan club, go ahead and do that now because that way you'll get an invitation from TikTok for the Discord. Um, and then you can catch when I go live next. I'm gonna upload this live and last night's live to YouTube. My YouTube is just LSAT Machine, so please find me over there and subscribe because I have like 14 subscribers. Um, I'll probably be back later tonight. I'm on break right now, and law school break feels weird because like you're doing a lot and then you stop and then you don't know what to do with yourself, and then like classes start in a week, so I like don't have that much time. Anyway, all that means is I'll probably be back later again today. I may go live on YouTube, but I'll probably come here first and tell you guys. But like I said, if you haven't sent a heart me, make sure you do that now before I end the live. So you get a link to the TikTok. How do you recommend studying for someone who works full time? Lori, my best recommendation is just to take a long time. Don't try to force yourself to like study in 3 months. There's no reason to do that to yourself. So just be kind to yourself. And like, I have students who's in undergrad who like I've worked with for a year because it's really hard to do school and study at the same time. So I'm not saying you need a year, but I'm just saying don't rush yourself. That would be my biggest suggestion. Take the test when you're ready. You're not on anyone else's timeline, and you're gonna feel a lot better. Um, and if I have anything else, I'll add to it when I come back. But thanks again, guys. I hope you have a good afternoon. I'll see you guys a little bit later on. Have a good rest of your Tuesday, and I'll catch you guys later. I hope that was helpful, Lori. Bye.